Welcome to Khanversations. I'm Muqtedar Khan. I'm your host, and today I'm going to talk to you about America's midterm elections. This was a historic elections, and it's important to reflect upon it. But before I begin, can you please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and make sure that you ring the bell icon so that you get notifications of my future postings. This election, this midterm election, was supposed to be a red wave, according to most media pundits. They felt that the Republicans would surely take the House and they would make enough gains to also control the Senate. The argument was that the inflation was having a severe toll on the economy, and since people voted essentially based on their pocketbook, it was inevitable that people would vote for Republicans and give them both the House and the Senate. Just a few days before the elections, Senator Coons on Khanversations made an interesting prediction that the Democrats would lose maybe 10 to 15 seats in the House, but he predicted that they would hold on to the Senate or maybe even make gains. And it is pretty apparent that while he underestimated the Democratic performance in the House, he was pretty much on the ball when it came to the Senate. So I'm looking at real clear politics, and it tells me that the Republicans have lost one, that is the Pennsylvania seat in the Senate. The Democrats have gained that seat, but more or less they are tied, and depending on what happens in Nevada and Georgia, the control of the Senate will be decided. So we basically have to wait till December for the Georgia runoff before we know fully who controls the Senate. But the House, it appears, is going to the Republicans. They will have a slim majority, maybe 2 or 3 or 5. And that's going to be very interesting, which means that while Republicans will control the House, the extremists in the Republican Party will hold the Republicans and therefore the House and therefore our government hostage because of this slim majority that the Republicans will have in the House. The Democrats have actually gained 2 governors, especially the one in, that's my cat, shocked at the fact that Democrats have won 2 governors, have made 2 gains in the governor's column. Especially the one in Maryland is extremely significant and important. So the first point that I would like to make is this. This was not a red wave, certainly, but it is quite possible that we could call it a bluish wave. What I mean by that is that historically, the midterms, the president's party really performs badly. And given the low approval ratings of Biden, which are hovering around 40%, presidents with 40% approval ratings, such as Obama and Bush and others, have had catastrophic midterms. So Obama's 2010 was unbelievable shellacking, as he himself called it. So the fact that the Democrats were not trounced in this midterm elections, and the fact that they might even hold on to the Senate, clearly suggests that this was a bluish wave, and we need to understand what it was. What was it that stemmed the anticipated red wave? There are some positives coming out for Democrats and some bad news for the MAGA voters. Trump lost once again to Biden. This victory between this duel that we have between Trump and Biden is now once again in Biden's camp. So the score is Biden 2, Trump 0. But Trump was a double loser in this election. He not only lost to Biden, but he also lost to Ron DeSantis. He's coming out as the strongest Republican in this midterm elections. Not only has he consolidated Florida as a red state from a state which is often considered as a battleground state. It's no more a battleground state for sure, but it is also the message that seems to be coming out of this election is that Ron DeSantis is perhaps strong enough to challenge Donald Trump in the primaries and may even win. Clearly, the leadership in the GOP must be looking forward to him. However, when we look at the election, say for example, look at Lauren Boebert's election in Colorado, where she's at the moment of this recording behind by 64%, and both the candidates, Adam Frisch and Lauren Boebert, are around 150,000 each votes. The message is that, well, she's not popular enough to win, but she is sufficiently popular to be in such a close race. So it appears that while the MAGA vote base has shrunk a little, its intensity remains the same, which means that within the Republican context, the MAGA voter will still be extremely influential, and therefore, while on a national, shall we say, stage, Donald Trump's stature as a political force has clearly diminished, within the Republican universe, he's the biggest force going around. So it's not very clear whether people like DeSantis will be able to essentially defeat him in the primaries. And if Trump announces soon, which he probably will, then he's going to have a lead on DeSantis and others in raising money and campaigning and getting his message across and potentially maligning would-be competitors. So that is how I see the consequences of this midterm elections with regards to 2024. Some of the positives that I have seen in this election is, one, that the Democrats have turned Pennsylvania blue. I mean, Biden had won Pennsylvania, but Fetterman's performance was unbelievable, and he outperformed even Biden in the state. And it's not just that, but Trump was trounced in Pennsylvania. Both the governor and the Senate race, Oz and Mastriano, were defeated soundly. And the message is very clear that even Republicans, at least there are some Republicans who are unwilling to support these specific qualities of some of the MAGA agenda. One is denial of the election outcome of 2020, but also to underplay what happened on January 6th. So that is an important, I think, result coming out of Pennsylvania. I also like what is going on in Georgia, which means that even though Brian Kemp won, he won by a significant margin over his Democratic opponent by several 100,000. But the fact that Warnock leads Herschel Walker suggests that there are hundreds of thousands of GOP voters in Georgia who will vote for their party but will not vote for the crazies in their party. That's a positive message. I think one of the most positive message in this election has come from Republicans who have shown that they can be a very discerning voter, that they can vote for people who uphold their moderate conservative agenda, but they will not support the MAGA voters in some critical states. It doesn't mean that all the Trump nominees have lost, but in some critical places they have lost. The message for the Democrats is that, okay, that they now have a powerful weapon, which I think will still remain potent in 2024. That weapon is given to them by the Supreme Court in the Dobbs case. So the shrinkage of women's reproductive rights is a critical weapon. It mobilizes young women and the youth. So a lot of young people came out to vote in the midterms, and I think they will come out in force in 2024. If the Democrats are able to send a message that if they lose both the House and the Senate, then the Republicans will basically take their extreme abortion agenda and make it a law of the land. And so that particular messaging might continue to help the Democrats in 2024. It appears that America hates the Democratic, or shall we call the extreme left, far less than it hates extreme right. So while the extreme right was kind of wiped out in Pennsylvania, but the squad won easily. In fact, Ilhan Omar got 75% of the vote and easily defeated her Republican opponent. So the ease with which the squad won in this election is also indicative that the the democratic agenda of progressive values is not that toxic as some people were trying to make out before the election, which means that the progressives will continue to make the demands that they have been making in the past, and there will be nobody able to tell them that your agenda hurts us, especially after this brilliant performance by the Democrats in the midterm elections. Looking forward, one of the message that the political establishment is sending to young Americans is that there is a leadership vacuum in this country. In 2020, there were three people that most people were excited about: Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, Donald Trump. Three 70 plus white men. And going forward, it appears that, except for Ron DeSantis, who is a bit younger, or I don't know, I think he's in the 40s, uh, the main candidates are still nearly 80-year-olds, white old men. So there seems to be the cupboard, it seems, is bare when it comes to political talent. Aren't there no exciting leaders on the horizon who can take America into the future? So that remains a challenge, and I wonder how much of that fact that we might end up with two really old guys running for office uh, create a disconnect with the young people and bring the voter enthusiasm down. Talking about voter enthusiasm, that was not an issue in the midterm election. Both sides seem to have equal enthusiasm, so that is good news. So I hope you find these reflections thoughtful and interesting. And once again, do subscribe to Khanversations, and I will talk to you again soon.